Good morning. Do you know what a sous chef is? A sous chef, we would say, is like the second in command in the kitchen. They're not the head chef. Instead, they are a helper to the chef. For example, the chef needs 10 pounds of carrots prepared for the evening dinner, and he also needs lots of garlic, potatoes peeled, chicken cleaned. Does the head chef do that? No, the sous chef does. The sous chef is the one who prepares the food, and he preps it for the head chef. Now, once the food is all prepared, then the head chef only has to focus on doing the actual cooking. That way, the entire focus of the chef is on the cooking. Now, let's say he had to mince all that garlic for his chicken. He may overcook the carrots while he's mincing the garlic. But because the sous chef already has all that garlic already prepared, then the head chef simply needs to add it when it is time. Could the head chef cook without a sous chef? Yes, he could. But the sous chef makes it easier for the head chef to do his job, and he also enables the head chef to do his job more efficiently, and thus he is a better chef. Any head chef will tell you that without a good sous chef working in their kitchen, they would not nearly be as good of a chef, and they would not be nearly as efficient as they need to be to run a well-organized kitchen. Well, that's nice and all, Miss Angie. You might be thinking, but what in the world does that have to do with the Bible? I'm going to get to that. Well, reading my Bible this week, I noticed something that I hadn't thought of before, and I want to share it with you today. I think once I tell the story, you will see what it has to do with a sous chef and a head chef. All right, now here's the story. David was a great king, and he noticed one day, while sitting in his palace, that it didn't seem fair that he lived in such a grand place, and yet the Ark of the Covenant was kept in basically a tent. So David decided it would be really great to build a house for the Ark of the Covenant. He told his idea to Nathan the prophet, and Nathan said, "Hey, that's a great idea. I think you should do it." However, that night, God came to Nathan and told Nathan in 1 Chronicles 17:4, "Go and tell David my servant, thus saith the Lord, thou shalt not build me an house to dwell in." And then in verse 11 and 12, God tells David that David's son will build the temple. I can think of some different reactions that David could have had to that announcement. First, David could have been jealous. God wants to use my son and not me. Maybe it could have caused him some insecurity. Why doesn't God want me to do it? Did I do something to offend him? Maybe I can't do it good enough. Lastly, David could have been indifferent. Well, I wanted to do it, but God said no, so I guess that's that. What's next on my to-do list? But the Bible doesn't indicate that David was jealous, insecure, or even indifferent. Instead, what David did a few chapters later really caught my attention and really taught me a valuable lesson. I'm going to share that lesson with you today. Let's look at it in 1 Chronicles 22, verses 2 through 5. They say, "And David commanded to gather together the strangers that were in the land of Israel, and he set masons to hew wrought stones to build the house of God. And David prepared iron in abundance for the nails, for the doors of the gates, and for the joinings, and brass in abundance without weight. Also cedar trees in abundance, for the Zidonians and they of Tyre brought much cedar wood to David. And David said, Solomon my son is young and tender, and the house that is to be builded for the Lord must be exceeding magnifical," I love that word, "of fame and glory throughout all countries. I will therefore now make preparation for it." So David prepared abundantly before his death. David, the king, became the sous chef to Solomon, his son. God, in this story, asked King David to step down and let someone else take the lead on this project. Did David get jealous? The Bible does not indicate that at all. Did he become insecure in his abilities? I don't believe so. Did he become indifferent to a house being built for God? No, not at all. David realized that God had that job for someone else, but that didn't mean he couldn't help. And so help he did. David thought, God doesn't want me to build the temple. He wants my son to do it. So how could I help my son Solomon to better prepare when the time comes? I know I can get the masons to prepare the stones that he will need, and they'll be all ready to go. I can get the nails made. They couldn't just run down to Home Depot like we can. They had to make their own nails. I can get together all the brass that he'll need. Oh, and you know what else I can do? I can get some trees ready. I can have my friends, the Zidonians, and those people over in Tyre. They'll bring me some cedar trees that we can get prepared and ready. My son is still young, and there's so many things to get ready before God's house can even begin to be built. I can't build the house, but I can prepare everything and get it ready for the one who does. Is that our attitude? When God chooses someone else to do something you wanted to do you maybe get jealous? Why did the pastor ask her to help talk to the visitor and not ask me? Or maybe it'll cause you to get a little insecure. Well, I thought they would ask me to do it, but they asked her. Maybe they don't think I can do it. Maybe I'm not good enough. Or maybe you become indifferent. Oh, well, I guess if I'm not in charge, I'll just find something else to do. But what if we had David's attitude? The attitude of the sous chef to the head chef. I'm not the one cooking the meal, but what I can do is help. I can have all that garlic minced and the carrots prepared before he even arrives. I'm not cooking the meat, but I can get it cleaned and ready to go. I can help the chef now so that when it's busy tomorrow night, he will be able to keep up and run this kitchen smoothly because of all the help that I've given him. How about it? Is that your attitude? Maybe you're not the Sunday school teacher, but could you help the teacher? Could you volunteer to bring the snacks or the breakfast? Or maybe you could help get the craft prepared and ready for the teacher. Could you set up the classroom? Maybe vacuum? Could you set up chairs? Could you make the copies of any coloring sheets the kids might need? How can you help? The teacher will have more time to study and prepare the lesson if someone else is doing all that prep work. Maybe you weren't chosen to cook the meal for the fellowship at church, but how could you help? Could you help purchase any ingredients? Maybe squeeze some lemons, chop some onions? How could you help? Do tables and chairs need set up? Does the floor need swept? Has anyone decorated yet? Could you help the cleanup crew when everyone else is going home? So you're not in the choir, but how could you help the choir? Could you file away the old music or maybe put the new music in the folders? Could you watch the nursery so the moms could practice? Before she passed away from cancer, we had a lady in our church, Mrs. Emmy, who didn't sing in the choir, but she came to every practice. Why? To watch my kids, so I could practice with the choir. Now, I never asked her to do that. She saw a need and she asked me if she could help. Not only did she help watch my kids, but she would bring them dinner every Sunday night so that I didn't have to worry about packing a dinner before I came to church. That was such a huge blessing for a very busy mom of 4. She was not in the choir, but she tremendously helped the choir by watching my kids. Trust me, our choir would not get nearly as much practice if we had 4 kids running around the auditorium. I do not remember when I heard this quote or where I read it. I'm not sure, but I do remember someone saying this, and it's exactly what I'm trying to say. Listen carefully. Never be too big to do something little for God. What an amazing quote. Someone has to be the sous chef. The chef needs help. God's workers need help. And if you were not chosen to do the job, or if maybe you aren't skilled in that particular area, what can you do to help those who are? King David's humbleness amazed me in this situation. The king, the number 1 man in the kingdom, was thrilled just to make the nails for the house of God. He never saw it. I don't even think he saw it get started, and yet he made it possible. Could Solomon have built the temple without everything being prepared by his father? Yeah, I'm sure he could have. But I guarantee you that Solomon was able to do a more efficient, thorough, and a quicker job because King David decided to help. No one asked him to do it. He just saw a need and did it. What can you do? How can you help? Every kitchen needs a sous chef.